Hey guys, this week's podcast has become a little late. I'm recording it on Tuesday, which is supposed to be the 2nd of November. I was supposed to do it prior to the 1st of November, which is a Monday, but I had gone out of town and came back on a Sunday, and I was not feeling too well. So, well, here we are. Okay, so yesterday I did put out a post or specifically a story on Instagram saying I I learned or I understood something from my mentor who told me it's a blanket statement, but I understood it in a much more deeper way. Something similar to as everyone knows networking, but the people who know networking, the people who do not know networking still know networking, as so what they say. So it's how well you know networking, and that's the same thing I realized specifically. I was the production manager of a film recently. It's not yet out, but I was just helping my friend, and I realized I spoke about this in my previous podcast, but I realized the power of storytelling and the way you convey it, and the same thing in security. As for what I said last time, here's a small recap. It's basically in the security field. We talk about users as people who do not know anything, whereas in the film industry they take it as the people who do not know and understand anything as not their real audience. So in the film industry, people see as their audience as smart, whereas in security we see the audience as dumb. Even though security is way more complicated and film, I shouldn't say it's less complicated. I mean, there are really a lot of nitty gritties which go into it, which may not be seen when you watch a film. But yeah, it's a different industry. They have a different challenge. We have a different challenge. And I just understood the power of storytelling in another way. So recently, I was talking to a client, and they were not, or they were confused between a web application firewall and a normal you know port blocking firewall. They're like, It's just the same thing, what's the difference?" And that particular company was into plastics. So here's the example I gave them. Think of a pen. Okay, a pen cap. You have a fatter pen cap and you have a smaller pen cap, because the pen is more smaller and the second pen is more fatter. You can't take the fat pen cap and put it on the smaller one. It won't fit. That is the same thing even with firewalls. You have different firewalls for different purposes. You can't just take it and put it, anywhere. I mean, you could. I mean, same with the pen caps, you could definitely do it. It's just that it won't work properly. It won't work the way it's supposed to work, or the use of it is not going to be there. And that's the same thing with the firewall example. You can't take a web application firewall and put it anywhere. It won't work properly. Whereas you can't take a just a port firewall and put it everywhere and you say it's done. You can't take a example of web application firewall. You can't put it in front of a network which you have all routers and all going through it, and all the routers data is going through the firewall. It's of no use. And that's the same thing with you know the other one, the a static port filter firewall. I mean, it does help, but for a web application which works on port 80, it does not help that much, I'd say. So specifically for the web application. So again, it's how you convey your facts, your stories, the way you portray data. And the same thing is with data analytics also. So so recently I was watching this TED talk. I think it was a TED talk on specifically about logic and how you can apply math to prove totally different points. So in this particular TED talk, if I'm not wrong, it was a TED talk on, yeah, they took an example of a town which had 100 students. Okay, the dropout rate was 1%. So the current year, say the dropout rate in 2020 was 1%. That means 100 students dropped out of school or college. Now the same example, but this year, okay, two students drop out of college in the whole year. So is that a 2% increase or a 50% increase? Because technically they both are right. It's a 50% dropout, 50% increase in dropout, and or there's a 2%, you know, increase in, I mean, there's a 2% dropout this year. Though they may be two different numbers, they portray two different stories. And it's how you portray the story to your users and, the people you're talking to, your final end person. So you talk to them in the language they understand. Coming back to the example I took up with this particular manufacturer who manufactures plastic, he understood plastic. I mean, I went through his portfolio, I seen what products he did, and I understood it. I mean, I have a certain, I would say, personality where I'll really like to learn new things. I love learning new things, and I love connecting things together and then making something totally different out of it. And so I went and tried and understood what this particular manufacturer was doing. He was making plastic caps for pens, whatever. And I gave an example that he would understand. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in that. It's just that this is an example I thought that we both would connect on, and he could understand where I'm coming from and I can understand where he's coming from. Because, I mean, come on, if I'm a person who doesn't know security, web application firewall and a port filter firewall both have the word firewall in it. So technically they are, it gives an impression that they are the same, or there's some difference in it. But from a business point of view, you can slap it on. I mean, again, I'm not talking from a technical point of view, from a person who knows. I'm just talking from a person who may not know all of this. So again, it's understanding your audience and portraying it in a way they understand. Okay, so I know this week's podcast is really small. Again, I said I am not feeling too well, and since I came from out, it's like a lot of work has piled up and whatever. Yeah. So yeah, we'll keep this one short. I'll try and cover up on the next one. So that's it for this week. Talk to you guys next week.